Welcome to Los Angeles Data Platform User Group. Thank you for being with us today. Good time of the day, everyone, whenever you are. Please drop your city or country into the chat so we know which communities we are serving. Again, welcome to Los Angeles Data Platform User Group. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Steve, and I'll be moderator of this virtual meeting. I'll be joined by Ilana. Feel free to visit our Eventbrite or Mira pages. This way you can get notified on any upcoming meetings. We're meeting every third Wednesday of every month. All the meetings are virtual, so you can join from wherever you are. If you're attending us for the first time or want to see us on social media, here's all the links that you can chase us on the social media. Most of our recordings are going to YouTube and Rumble, so you can see and so you can basically revisit the content. So you can revisit the content that you saw, or maybe refresh it again. Also, you can join our mailing list. You can either scan that QR code or click on the link. And this way you get notified on upcoming meetings, on new published videos, as well as our weekly newsletter as well, with some helpful information. And this event is actually, okay. We have upcoming SQL Server events in SoCal. The dates are still tentative. There is Orange County, it's April 27th. And again, it's tentative, but the date is April 27th, and the location is Microsoft Office in Irvine. Also tentative SQL Server in Los Angeles on June 1st at Loyola Marymount University. And this event is sponsored by Microsoft Team3 and Data Driven Technologies. So everyone knows Microsoft. Team3 is virtualized storage. Now, Data-Driven Technologies, or as we call it shortly, DDT, is a nonprofit that funds this user group, as well as SQL Server in Los Angeles and SQL Server.
Hello, my name is Vedran Kesegic, and today we will talk about a few interesting topics about SQL Management Studio, how I use it, and SPX details. So let me share my screen. Where is it? Okay, just a second.
It's gonna be under share button, and then you can either share screen or application.
I will share my screen.
Perfect.
So like this. What is this? Like this. Can you see my screen? Can you see the presentation?
Yep.
Okay, this is my blog. I usually write about performance, backup restore, I don't know, stuff I see that is not covered well elsewhere. So let's see. Okay. So a little bit about me. I'm from a small country in Europe, Croatia, and that country is where Rimac Nevera, yes, it's not Rimac, it's Rimac. That's last name of the guy who produced it. So the fastest car in the world, fastest electric car in the world, I think not just electric, generally fastest car in the world you can buy and actually drive on the street is this car, Rimac Nevera. So that's where it is produced, this car, and architected and produced everything from zero up. Bugatti too is there. So we have nice land part and even nicer sea side. So it's really great to live here. I'm a Microsoft Certified Master for SQL Server, working 23 years with SQL Server deeply. And currently I have a company with around 8 DBAs doing SQL Server services to my clients all over the world, mainly performance optimizations, upgrades, migrations, anything related to SQL. So let's get on. SQL Server Management Studio. Few tricks I use. So I need to be efficient in my work. I need to be efficient and fast. And I don't want to disturb servers. And if you do RDP to SQL Server, your RDP session takes memory. Also, any program that you start up on the RDP takes memory. It takes memory from your SQL Server. So that means SQL Server needs to shrink its memory. And that can cause recompiles, compile locks, CPU spikes, sudden performance degradations. You don't want to do that. That's why you don't want to RDP to SQL Server machine, unless you have to, unless you really need to, I don't know, change something with the drivers or I don't know, you know. So most of the time I never connect with RDP. I always use a separate machine, separate virtual machine, or anything that has SQL Studio installed, and then I connect with SQL Studio to the SQL Server, not RDP. In fact, it is not just performance, it's also security. Because if you let a lot of people RDP permissions to the SQL Server, viruses can exploit that too. So you don't want to give permissions, RDP permissions to the SQL Server, except few people that actually really need that access. Only small amount of people, small number of people. Because, for example, crypto viruses, they usually exploit, let's say, they usually exploit RDP. So limit RDP as much as you can. So let's see shortcuts that I often use. Drag and drop column list. So let me show you that. If you have a table, let's say this is a small table. So I want to select from that small table. Just a second. Okay, this is testDB. So okay, I want this star to become column list. So if you don't have a Redgate or any SQL prompt or any such tool, then you can use this thing. So you go to columns and you just drag and drop this column list. So you can just drag and drop and you have a column list. That's one shortcut. Then Control R. So you can use Control R. So that's Control R to hide the lower panel and bring it back. So you can have more space to read query, long query or something like that. But so that's this Control R. Then Alt Shift, block selection. So if you have, let's say you have like this. And you of course use alias, small table, let's say S, like small. Then you want to add S dot. You can say normal, if you hold Shift and you go down, it will be normal selection. And we want to block selection. So if you hold Alt and then make a selection, now it's a block selection. You see, it is like a block selection. So you can do like this, S dot. I mean, you can type anything, and that will be in this line. So you can do these things. So you hold Alt, and let's say you can start selecting with Alt, even with mouse. So this is with mouse. I'm holding Alt, left Alt. So that's a block selection. I use it a lot. Why I cannot get block selection? Okay, let's see. Then Alt F1. So if I double click on this small table and Alt F1, this is SP help. So Alt F1 SP help. So if you execute SP help on the small table, that's the same result. So you can see no views, schema binding, reference this table. Okay. And you can see data about this table. So that's a small table when it is created, list of columns, identity, and some other information, constraints, indexes, and that is it, basically. Small table. But why it works? Why Alt F1 is connected to SP help? I can double click and press Alt F1, and I get this call because it's in shortcuts. If you go to Tools Options and you go to Keyboard and Shortcuts, you can see that SP help is tied to a shortcut Alt F1. So you can add your shortcuts. For example, on Control F1, I can add SPX details. And that's what I do when I first set up Management Studio. First, I set these SPX details to run on Control F1. So the next thing I do on the startup, I set Object Explorer and Query Window. So Query Window immediately opens when you start Management Studio. Also, Query Results to Grid. By default, this is off. So you need to set it on. Otherwise, any result in the grid will be stripped from new line characters. So that means anything you copy from the grid will be in one line, which is crazy ugly. I mean, that's maybe good to paste it to Excel, but it is really bad if you select, for example, from to select, let's say, and view procedure code with select, then that procedure will be in a single line when you copy and paste. So you fix it with this. You just put this check mark. Also, character data will be cut on 65535 by default. That's not enough for some stored procedures, for some text data. So you add a 0 here, and XML data unlimited. That's what you do, and you press OK. So these settings are not applied on the existing query windows. They are not applied. They are applied only on new query windows. So either you want to shut down Management Studio, open it again, or you open a new query window, and there you can enjoy on your new shortcuts and settings that are now effective. So let's see. Control F1, SPX details. So let's get into this. So SPX details, why it is born? Because I'm a consultant. I need to fast see indexes, fast and reliable, see indexes, details about table, search for the procedures, tables, and I couldn't get it. I mean, even if you buy a product such, I don't know, any Redgate or other manufacturers, which are really great, don't get me wrong, these are great manufacturers, nice tools, I love them, but sometimes they get stuck. Sometimes they don't refresh. If you have a syntax error in your select, they won't work, or they have stale data. They are not reliable enough, at least for me. So I needed something more reliable, and I needed something which will give me more data, more information that I need in my everyday work. So from the frustration, from the need for me, I created it, and I saw that it would be useful for other people, so I shared it for free with everyone. So you can download it. You can go to the page. You just Google SPX details. So this is my blog, and at the top you have home, SPX details, performance logging. These two things are to download. So you go to SPX details, and here are brief instructions, download here. So this is just a stored procedure, similar to SP who is active, let's say. So you install it on the master database, and you set up shortcut to call it. Another thing on this blog post, which is nice, is performance logging. So it's also something to download, and it's for free. So you can download it, and when you set it up, it will record two things. It will record performance counters like CPU, memory, disk, and also it will create extended events to log slow queries and errors and deadlocks, stuff like that. So it will create logs if anything happens with that server or slow queries, it will be logged. It is super lightweight. It is not a tool you install. It is just configuring existing things you already have. So you already have performance counters. This is part of Windows. So we set that up, and it's part of Windows that is running. It's not my software or any script that is running. I'm just using script to configure it. You could click it manually, but this script saves you work not to click it manually. So extended events also part of SQL Server feature that this script configures to record only events of interest. And these are typically rare events. That's why it is super lightweight for your server. It is tested on many servers, big servers, troubled servers, and small servers also. And it is super lightweight, very lightweight, Spartan lightweight. It just requires space for these data files, for these log files, in fact. So just a few, let's say 1 or 2 gigabytes of space, and that's it. People use it to troubleshoot or to send me logs so I can troubleshoot and make them their servers faster. So after you download it, SPX details, install it, then we can see a few examples. So let's see here. So partition table. Let's see this test partitioning. Maybe it has test. Partitioning, recovery pending, really? Oh, it cannot recover. Oh. Okay, let's see some other database. Collation, maybe there. Only one table. Okay, this is. Okay, so let's see. Let's say you want to search. So you know that in the name is a table. So you say table like this, and you say you press Control F1, and then it gives you all objects that have table in the name. So it's a few user tables when it is modified, or you can see if it is a view or procedure, then you can see definition. You can copy that definition. I can Control C, Control V. So you can see definition of the object. Also, if it's a stored procedure, let me check. Create procedure, copy, paste. So you can see the procedure. So it's really useful. I mean, you can go without this. You just select part of the name, Control F1, and it will give you everything that contains that characters. You can go with like ends with table like this. So it's normal, like search. So you instantly see the list of objects. So let's see this procedure. Okay, this is the procedure, Control R. And you can do the same things for this object. Let's say you double click. So you double click and that selects the name. So you can press Control F1 and then you see this other procedure and its definition. Control C, paste, and you can see this definition. Double click, Control F1, doesn't exist. Maybe I should go like this. No, it's probably some internal object that is not accessible to me. So that's why I cannot see it. Oh, I can see this. So this is a stored procedure too, not a view. It's a stored procedure, modified, blah, blah. So that's how you search. So it is, you can say like, it has any like filter. You can use any like filter, any pattern to search like that. So when you found your object, you can see details about that object. Let's say big table. Let's say big, Control F1. So it's this table, Control C, double click, Control F1. So you can see details about that table. It is similar to SP help. If I press Alt F1, this is SP help. So this is classic SP help. But Control F1 gives me SPX details. So Control plus F1 equals SPX details because that's shortcut. And then you see what are the columns, their data type, references, default values, is it not null, primary key, etc. You also see, for example, this description is from comments. If I go to that big table and I go to design and I say description. So I say this column has some data. And then I save, close. So double click, Control F1. This column has some data. So you see these comments. You can document your columns with these descriptions and you will see them here. Default values. Also indexes. You will see key columns, which you also see with SP help, but included columns you usually don't see. You don't see with SP help, but with SPX details you see included columns. And you see if it is also a constraint, index tied to constraint, like unique constraint, primary key constraint, type of index. You can see number of rows immediately. You can see kilobytes because you know, this is 13 megabytes, so you can see which index is the biggest. Usually clustered index is the biggest. Here, clustered index is not the biggest because it's a column store. Column store has a great compression if data repeats, so we have a much smaller megabyte or gigabyte imprint for this. And we have also binary balanced tree indexes, classic indexes here. They all have the same number of rows, except filtered index. So you can see filter expression here. And that filter expression gives me 0 rows, 8 kilobytes, because no row satisfies this criteria. So you can see data space partition, number of partitions. So if table is partitioned, you will see here data space is different from primary. It will be your partition scheme. And the number of partitions you will see here, fill factor. Also, you will see bunch of these additional attributes, and also create script. So you can use it if you want to, let's say, drop indexes and recreate indexes. You just click here, Control C, paste. That's it. It's like you can quickly script indexes without going into here, right click, script table as, you know, it's much faster than that, much more condensed and much faster. So let me show you why this. Let's see, is this recovery pending? Okay, for some reason, this database, that's a test machine that I rarely turn on, and sometimes, you know, there are issues. So this is very useful, you know, when you want to change something. Let's say you want to change the primary key. Primary key is difficult to change, or column store, let's say clustered key, changing clustered key, primary key. This can be challenging, or a column used in many indexes. That is challenging because they are related objects to this column, and that's why SQL Server will not let you change this column. You cannot change, let's say, data type or name, or I don't know, maybe name you can, but data types, not so much. You need to first drop related indexes, constraints, etc. Anything related to that column. Then you alter column, and then you create related everything you dropped. So you need to script first before you drop. So you use this to script. And also you will see any constraints, like foreign key constraints. You can have child tables, parent-child relations. So you can also see that here. You can script it easily with this, script create, then you drop, alter column, and you use the script that you generated with this. Indexes, foreign keys, and everything else. We don't have here foreign keys, so that's why I don't see it. So that is how we can easier change a column, or easier create a script to change a column which is normally challenging to change. And basically this tool is my, oops, what happened? Aha, some sound I heard. Oh, what happened? This is my camera, I guess. My camera turned off for some reason.
Yes,
Let me
but
see.
again, you can continue. The video is on, the camera is just off.
Okay, no problem. You don't.
My guess is there's something with OBS Studio.
Yes, something happened. I will then turn off the camera. So, thank you. So this is basically, this tool is my hands and legs, my eyes and ears. You know, it's much slower for me to use anything else, even expensive paid tools, much slower than using this. It may be I'm biased because, you know, I got used to this tool, but after you try it, you probably will think, how could I live without this? It's a must, you know. It's the first thing I install on any SQL Server that I touch, you know. You will discover much more. I didn't go through all that it gives you, and it doesn't display things that I mean, they are just two data sets, but it can give you much more if table has some other types of related objects. So it will display this, and it will, in messages, it will tell you, okay, it's a user table, no child tables, no triggers. If it has triggers, it will display triggers together with the code of the trigger. Stuff like that. So in messages, you can view that. Let's see. Another thing. Okay, let's see an example. Example is a slow delete. So we can see one small table. Let me select. So if you look at this table, it has, oops, why it is so, aha, that's here. Okay, this is a small table. It has one ID, identity, primary key, so unique identifier, some date, some, what is this? Few extra information, and then something to fill bytes, but not much, 1000 bytes, 1000 characters. Each one is 2 bytes, so it is 2000 bytes, and 6 rows. So we can see, with space used, we can see quickly how many rows it has. Only 6 rows. We can see indexes, ID. We can select star and see these are really only 6 rows. 1 to 6. It's a really small table. It really has, I don't know, if this is 2000 bytes times 6, it's 12,000 bytes plus something. Let's say not more than 13 megabytes. So it's really small. And it has index on the ID. It is a clustered index on the ID. So let's see. Let's turn on time to display in messages, and let's delete one row. So it's executing. So you see 2 seconds. And I have very, very fast machine. So why it took over 1 second of CPU time to delete one row by clustered key index. So it cannot be that slow. Something is fishy here. Something happened. What do you think? Somebody has idea? What could happen? You can unmute and tell.
Maybe foreign key?
Maybe foreign key. That's actually very good idea. Maybe a foreign key. Or a trigger. Maybe there's a trigger on delete and it does stuff. So let's see how can we say what happens. So let's see execution plan. So we will see estimated execution plan. And now we can see that this delete, which deletes only one row, has a nested loops to some other table. We are deleting from this table, but this is scanning another table because it's a foreign key, as this gentleman said. It has a foreign key from a child table to our table, and that child table is big. Although we have only 6 rows here, this one could have millions. And if we scan this table, it will take a lot of time. So our delete of the parent will be super slow operation. Basically, we want to discover which child tables have foreign keys without indexes. I mean, we could create now index and solve it. But it is useful to see which child tables, which are big, don't have indexes on the foreign key. So let's see SPX details on that small table. I can also double click, Control F1, and now you can see this list of columns with defaults, identity, which is started with 1, increment is 1, and current value is 6. So we can see primary key now has 5 rows because we deleted 1 row. And we have child table. So big child by column parent ID equals ID. It's enabled, trusted, blah, blah. Foreign key has index? No. So we have our guilty child here. It doesn't have index. This foreign key on the child table, foreign key column, is missing an index. So that's why our delete is very slow. You can see scripting here, drop script and create script. So I can copy drop script if needed and create script for the foreign key. That's for the foreign key. So you can recreate foreign keys too. Okay. So now how will we fix that? We will create index on big child. So let's do that. Created index. Now we will try delete. So let's first, before we try delete, let's see estimated execution plan. It looks similar, almost nothing changed, but this nested loop goes into lower branch and now it is seek. So it uses this tree, this balanced tree, to find the row quickly. And then it will read much less pages and it should be much faster. We will now measure it. Let's see, actual. So you see, CPU time 0, 5 milliseconds. That's more like it. So now we optimize it. By the way, if you, just a tip, optimization tip, you know, there are several operators to join 2 tables or 2 indexes. So nested loops is one of them. We have, which ones can somebody say? Beside nested loops, how you can join 2 indexes, 2 tables? Hash join and merge join and
remote join.
Remote join. I didn't hear for that. But there is also a newer type of join which combines nested loops with, let's say, hash or merge join by case by case, you know. But let's say these three nested loops, hash join and merge join, are main operators to join two indexes to tables. Okay, so nested loops looks great. It's super efficient if this branch has low number of rows. Because if this has n rows, lower branch is called n times. And if n is small, let's say smaller than 1000, this is efficient. If n is a bigger number, let's say, I don't know, the bigger it is, the slower it gets. So going down to index seek becomes very costly. Query becomes super slow if you have a large number of rows in the upper branch of nested loops. So that's one optimization tip. You can change it to something else, to merge join, to hash join, but then you need to have appropriate index there, which should be which should use something like range seek, range scan or range seek. That is ideal index, not to scan entire table, but just a portion of the table that you need, and merge join or hash join with upper branch. Okay, I digress. So we can also explore big child. Double click, Control F1. So what do we see? We see that it has parent ID that references small table. It's like it's a foreign key. So it is view that you can easily see parent tables. We have 500,000 rows probably there. And we can see collation is default for this database. And also we see that it takes 4 gigabytes. 4 gigabytes. Another trick, if I press double click, let's say not double click, but double press Control F1. I pressed Control F1 and then again. So I pressed Control F1 2 times. It's like double click, but it's not click, double key press. Double key press within, I think, within 5 seconds, something like that. Then it will display a lot more information. So it is, yeah, big child, no check constraint, no triggers, no child tables. On the result side, we now see not just these 2 indexes, we see foreign keys, and we see a total. So, oops, oh. We see a total here, which is 4 gigabytes still. But on bigger tables, when you have a lot of indexes, it is useful to see sum of all these gigabytes. Compression they use, partition scheme, partition function, if they are partitioned, number of partitions. Also, you would see, if it is a partition table, you would see each partition. You would see ranges of dates, usually partition by date. So you see number of rows and gigabytes in that particular partition and particular date range for that partition, for each partition. So you would see all this data in partition table. Then there are statistics about index usage. So you can see which indexes are useful and which are not useful. So these are dates when it is last used, index when it is last used, how many times it is seek is performed, scan is performed, how many updates, and read per read write, read per all operations, let's say. If this is low, if this is 0, that means index is not heavily used, it's not used at all maybe, or rarely used. So this index with low reads per read write percentage is candidate to drop, because it takes time to update indexes, to change the values there. It makes writes slower. Indexes make writes slower, and they are justified only if they are the reads on them are heavy. So if they are used, if they are heavily used, frequently used, then index is justified. But if index is not used for reads, and you constantly need to update that index to change the value inside that index, this index is useless, makes your workload slower than actually faster. And this column tells you that. I mean, people often are index junkies. They want to optimize a query. They want to do something to make the query faster. So they go to missing indexes view. There is a like missing indexes feature in SQL Server you can leverage, and it suggests you indexes to create. And you create one index, and it's not satisfied. You create other index, and you create 10 indexes, and then missing indexes will not suggest any more indexes. You will end up with ton of indexes here, and everything, instead of faster, everything gets even slower because of this thing I just told you. So writes get slower because all of these tens or hundreds of indexes must be updated every time you insert a row, every time you delete a row, every time you update column that is part of these indexes. So it makes writes slower, but not only writes, it also slows down reads. It is counterintuitive, but reads are slower if you over-index. Because if you over-index, these indexes must be, portion of these indexes is cached in memory. And that means it pushed out other pages from memory. The effect is like you decreased your server RAM. So you read more from the disk than before. So when you create a lot of indexes, you read from disk rather than RAM more. In higher percentage, you read from the disk than before. And reading from disk is 10,000 times slower than reading from RAM. Even the fastest disk, super NVMe, local super fast disk, is 10,000 times slower than RAM. It's unbelievable. The difference is really unbelievable. RAM is the king, and really. So if you read from the disk, you are slow. So over-indexing can make your reads slower, not just writes. We also see here different kind of statistics, which is individual, similar to this, but this is based more on execution plans, and this is based more on actually executed operations. So if how many rows are inserted, updated, deleted, how many lookups, seek, scans, modified. So you can use this tool to assess, is index useful or not? Is it useful to keep it or to drop? By the way, this is all from system views. And these system views are as good as this system data is deleted when you restart your service or you do certain operations. So they are not reliable over long time. If you want a reliable assessment, is index useful or not, then you need to capture this information over time. So I usually have a job that runs every few hours, captures index usage, and then I can reliably tell which index to drop over a month of usage. So I'm certain that I catched everything, and no index has slipped. No index, if it is rarely used and it slips from the cache, you maybe wouldn't catch it here. This is just a glimpse to give you overview, to give you idea which indexes may be candidates to drop them. And the last one is statistics. So you can see when statistic was last updated, how many rows are sampled, because here is sample 100%, but here sample is much lower than 100%. So, and you can see some other things about these statistics, like is it incremental? For example, if you have partition table, incremental means per partition. So statistics can be global over all partitions, like single unit, or statistics can be per partition. That is called incremental statistics. So each partition has own statistics, which is usually very good thing if you have a partition table. I usually enable that, so it's much more precise and much less resources to refresh statistics, because on the partition table you usually don't change often old data. So these old partitions are usually not immutable, but they are, let's say, seldom written. Usually you write to the newer partition, to the current date, or let's say month or two old. And then you need to refresh statistics only for these new partitions, not to read and sample entire table. So that is really useful for partition tables. Okay, I think I can go back if I know how. Okay, let's see what we have else. Okay, this is one tip I also use in my work to see execution plan. So execution plan is great thing to look at when you explore performance. But sometimes on very, very big execution plans, it is better to use external tool, free tool from Sentry1. So Sentry1 Plan Explorer, it's also a free tool. So this is the Sentry SQL Sentry Plan Explorer from SolarWinds. And but the problem is, you don't want to install that on the client's machine. You don't want any software to mess up with SQL Server machine. You want to keep SQL Server clean, especially your client's SQL Server. You don't want to touch anything there or install anything there. So you install that tool on your machine or on your virtual machine that has Management Studio installed. You install the SQL Sentry Plan Explorer, and now how to transfer the execution plan from the server to this Plan Explorer. Let's see this execution plan. I will just use this one. And you right-click, show XML, then you copy that, Control-A, Control-C, or right-click copy. And then you go to SQL Sentry and just hit paste. So you don't need to save to a file. You can copy paste XML of the execution plan. And now what I do, I just grab this part. I want this part to be big. So what I did. Now I drag it like that and I hit maximize. And with Control and mouse wheel, you can maximize it. I also like to show full object names. So there you can, it is a bit easier to see graphically if plan is super big. It's a great tool to use. SQL Sentry Plan Explorer. So, any questions? I didn't tell you, but you could ask anything during the session. Sorry about that. But any questions you can ask. Otherwise, you can send your questions to my email address. You can read blog. There are interesting topics, maybe. And thank you all. This is my first time presenting for LA audience, so I'm honored to be with you. Thank you for this opportunity.
Great presentation. Is this your first time presenting at 6 a.m.?
Yes, definitely. I'm a late bird, I'm late night bird, and this is for me like, very, very, very hard for me, but it is worth it.
You did well.
Thank you very much. I'm trying my best.
For attendees that want to ask any questions, please feel free to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I went ahead and unmuted myself.
Great.
Oh, great.
Hi.
Hi.
So quick question. So I can't do like troubleshooting on the client databases. Usually I'll restore a database to like a hotfix environment. So will this work the same? Basically, whatever the situation is, I can still use this store procedure to do everything you showed, even if it's a restored database from a different server. Okay.
Yes, but it needs to be installed. So if you download this SPX details, I mean, I already have it downloaded. XD.
You said I would install it in the master, right? So once I
Yes.
restore on that server, as long as I have it on is installed in master,
Everyone
I
can use it. Exactly.
Okay. So anything I restore there, I can then use it to troubleshoot whatever. So like a lot of times, like our stats will be out of date or something. I can actually use this to
Exactly.
check if, okay.
And the good thing is it can be used when you install it. So it's in master. Every developer, every DBA, every consultant that comes can use it. So it's not like a tool you need to install on all machines of every expert that comes there. Anyone can use it. So
okay, thank you.
Goes into master, no problem. It works even on Azure SQL database, but you need to remove this master because you cannot access master, and you need to remove this mark system object. This will fail in Azure.
Then I guess a follow-up question. So like, for example, I don't control the environment. So if the DBA say, no, I don't want to have this installed in master, if I restore the database, can I then just place it in that database by following the instructions you just gave by removing the use master in this last statement?
Exactly.
And just
That's
run
actually
it within the
a
database
great
that
idea.
I am troubleshooting. Okay.
Excellent idea. You're thinking really nice. Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
No problem. I mean, from the master database, when we mark it a system object, then it can be used from any user database. It has like a context of a user, any user database. But this is a great example when you are not allowed to install it in master, you can use it in your user database and it will work. Just remove this and this.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
No problem. My pleasure. So if that's all, I mean, I have a YouTube channel also. You can go to YouTube and say, let's say my name maybe, and then you can see like maybe useful topics about SQL Server. Also see, I mean, I had a beard before. now I don't. It's more like this. Yeah, okay.
Can you share the
Okay.
link to your YouTube channel?
Sure.
Right here in the
see.
chat.
Okay.
And we
I'll
can all
try
pick it up and watch all your videos.
Excellent. So
Thank you.
just how to get the chat. Yeah, I see it. There it is. Okay.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you for asking. That is it. That is it for me. All for me. I wish you good rest, good night, and I will go to the gym now.
Awesome presentation. Thank you for waking up early for us.
No problem. It is my pleasure to be with you.
Vedran, will you be able to share the scripts and maybe the PowerPoint with me later on so I can share it with the members?
Yes, I will send you.
Awesome. Awesome. Vedran, thanks that was a great presentation. Thank you. And thank you for waking up so early for us.
No problem. No problem. Thank you too for organizing this.
Thank you, Vedran.
Okay. Bye to all of you in LA. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.